to connect with other people, suddenly I couldn't do anymore. So I had to kind of relearn who I was and rediscover what I was passionate about. And I started reading more. I started playing music again. I started editing videos, which was something that I had kind of been into when I was younger, and kind of got back into that. And then I picked up a slackline at the local sporting goods store, and that's how slacklining got started for me. I just had like this little ratchet set up in the park, and I would go out there alone and bring a book and the slackline and spend half the time reading, the other half the time slacklining. Then I met some people who had a 50-meter 1-inch primitive setup, and that was really cool to start walking the 1-inch webbing, and I caught on to it pretty fast, and it really quickly became super easy for me in the park. And I kind of had this dream that maybe one day I would be able to highline, but there was no community that I knew of. I had no connections to any slackliners. The people I was slacklining with were just other people who had just started, just like me. And yeah, I was in Spain in this town. There was no Highline community, and I was just hoping maybe one day it would happen for me. So yeah, that summer
Wow.
I was traveling in a van that I bought, doing a rock climbing trip, and we went to Grenoble, France, and we set up a line in the park just to pass some time. And these other people walked up to us and were like, "Oh, hey, cool, you guys are slackliners? Are you here for the Highline Festival?" And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah, Highline Festival just started today. It's going for the rest of the weekend, and it's 30 minutes up the road in the mountains here." And it just like everything lined up totally serendipitously that we had the opportunity to go to MHP. And MHP is one of the well-known Highline festivals in France, and the lines there just are so high, like 300 meters of direct exposure. And I was already pretty comfortable with exposure from climbing, but yeah, I didn't know anything about highlining. So they had one person at each of the lines kind of checking people as they were getting on, and I was like, "Yeah, it's my first time," and the guy's like, "Cool, have fun." Didn't tell me anything. I just like tied in. I knew how to tie in the 8, but I didn't know how to mount a high line. I mean, I only knew how to like put my foot on the line in the park and stand up that way. Yes. I knew how to chongo mount, I think. Yeah, I knew how to chongo mount, but I didn't know how to get back up on the line. So luckily from the rock climbing and bouldering that I had been doing, I was strong enough just to like mantle my way back up onto the line. But yeah, that's how I got my start highlining. And then after that experience, I was like, I have to do this. I have to figure out a way to make this happen more in my life. I can't just go to festivals. I can't just wait for other people to have highlines that I can get on. So I immediately bought all of the stuff I needed for highlining and just slowly tried to learn and build community. And at that time I was living in Mallorca, Spain, and basically from the ground up built a highline community in Mallorca, just from a bunch of these climbers and canyoneer people, and just people who are interested in it, and they were total beginners, but they were stoked. And I mean, I was a total beginner also at the time, so we were learning together, growing together, and now the Slackline Mallorca community is a pretty well-developed one. There's lots of lines all around the island, and it's super cool. So yeah, that's the really long kind of encapsulated history of how I got to where I am now.
It's awesome.
And then, yeah.
It's awesome how injury affects you and then change your